let's discuss rear brake light switch function. When you depress the rear brake pedal on your motorcycle, you want your rear brake light to illuminate. Obviously, it needs to be when the ignition switch is on and the pedal is depressed, the brake light will illuminate. Quick way to check it. You can unplug the two wires that lead to the rear brake light switch. Many switches are in different locations, but all switches land somewhere in the path of the rear brake line. Some may be found up front off the master cylinder. Some will be found midway, like this Softail. Others, and I've seen them in custom applications, fall back on the brake line near the banjo bolt that feeds into the rear caliper. On this Softail, it happens to be just about dead center under the transmission in the brake line. You can carefully remove the two wires with the connectors that go to the brake switch. Now let's say we have no brake light in the back working at all. No matter how hard we push on the brake pedal or how many new bulbs we've put in the rear taillight assembly. I want to hook up my test light, the ground side of the test light, to the negative side of the battery. Always verify your test light's working by going to the positive terminal on the battery. At that point, you can turn on your ignition switch and you can gently probe into the end of the two connectors. One side will always be off. The other side, with the ignition switch on, should always be illuminated. Again, when it comes to wiring, leave the probe in the connector. Make sure that you move the entire harness around. Make sure you're not getting an intermittent connection due to a problem in the harness and you're just blaming it on a bulb or a switch. Once you verify you have good constant voltage to at least one of the wires going to the rear brake light switch with the ignition on, you can then take a paper clip. What this test is going to do, it's going to verify that the rear brake light switch itself is faulty. If you take a paper clip, fold it evenly into a horseshoe, and again, be aware you're going to be using 12 volts DC. Don't let this paper clip touch anywhere ground. We can insert it into what we know as the powered side with the ignition switch on and verify that it's still getting powered with the test light. Then we can carefully probe into the other connector. Most times when you create a complete circuit like this with a paper clip, you should see a small spark when you plug it into the other end of the wire. With that paper clip causing a complete circuit, right now this paper clip is acting as a rear brake light switch. You see you've made a complete circuit, eliminating the switch, eliminating any need to depress the pedal, and your brake light should be illuminated all the time. You can verify it by shutting off the ignition switch. Brake light should go out. Turn it on, brake light is still jumped. We've eliminated the switch, jumped it with a paper clip. At this point, we verified that we have 12 volts coming to the switch. We've eliminated the switch and jumped it, and we verified that power goes all the way from the opposite side of the switch out into the harness and feeds the brake light bulb. If you're able to jump these two connectors, the bulb illuminates. It tells you right away the rear brake light switch is bad. If you need to replace that rear brake light switch, be aware you need to be able to access it. You need to be able to tighten it and loosen it, get Teflon paste on it. It goes into an allocation on the brake line that is a threaded surface. A brake system is a sealed system. You don't want any leaks. You don't want any air left in the system. If you're not confident in doing it, make sure you get someone who is.